Hey guys, SuperHorrorBro Mike here, and in today's video we are going to be reading a little bit from the new Bendy book, The Illusion of Living. Now this is a book by Adrienne Kress. She also wrote the previous Bendy novel, Dreams Come to Life, and this book looks into the memoirs of Joey Drew and what happened in his life leading up to when he became the creator of Bendy, running Joey Drew Studios. Now I don't know entirely what we find out through this book, but it does promise some new lore for the Bendy universe. Also, we must remember that this book was prevalent throughout the game. We actually collected it in Chapter 1 of Bendy and the Ink Machine, and we saw it many times throughout our playthrough in various chapters. So, this book obviously ties into the studio's history in a big way, and for that reason, I can't wait to check it out. In today's video, we're going to be reading part of a free sample available online at the moment, so I think I should be okay to read this on the channel because this is free for everybody to access online without having to buy the book. But I would urge you to obviously buy the book if you do enjoy my reading today and support the people behind it. I know we haven't had that much Bendy content on the channel recently because there just hasn't been much to cover, but hopefully with the anniversary coming next week, we'll soon get some more concrete details on Bendy and the Dark Revival and be able to start covering Bendy on a more regular basis once again. With that said guys, sit back, relax, grab your favourite snack and enjoy my reading of the first few chapters of The Illusion of Living. Foreword by Nathan Arch Sr. All I wanted was to share joy with the world. I wanted to teach the world that when they watch Bendy and Boris and Alice, they aren't just watching cartoons, they are watching themselves. I want folks to laugh and see a positive reflection of their lives, to understand that dreams are a reality, and reality is a dream. Not everyone can do this, but I can. Joey Drew. The Illusion of Living first found its way onto store shelves in 1942. This was a moment in our country's history full of angst and turmoil, and Joey Drew, who is a good friend and someone I had known since we had been teenagers, thought that this book might be of help to a nation in crisis. Indeed, it was my firm belief that had readers not been so deeply invested in stories about the horrors of a world and savage satire, or the complete opposite, desiring to close their minds with silly, pointless diversion, they might have found a true vision in this memoir treatise. A true hope for the future and a model for how to live a life full of positivity. As it was, the sales upon the original release of a book were not what anyone had hoped for, but Joey Drew, ever the optimist, didn't get upset. He knew the world would be ready for his words when the world was ready. I feel that this time has come, that the world is ready again for Joey Drew's particular philosophy. Further, in the years since the man has passed, some untruths have come to surface, some rumours and backlash. The fact that the studio collapsed in such an unceremonious fashion, I have no doubt contributed to the suspicions that Joey Drew was not the genius he truly was. This is wildly unfair, and the rewriting of history a blemish, not just on those who worked at the studio itself, but a deep, dark reflection of our current societal interest in cynicism over optimism. Over the years, I've collected every single piece of the studio and memorabilia I could find to restore it to its former glory, to create, in a sense, a private museum that gleamed with the true vision of Joey Drew. It never felt quite like enough, and I found myself searching for a way that moved just beyond our own personal properties, that restored not just the original animation cells and comics, toys and games, but also restored his good name in the public memory. Bendy was Joey's child, and he felt just as strongly about Bendy as I feel about my own flesh and blood son. My goal is to restore the name Joey Drew to the history books as one of the greatest contributors to animation the world has ever known. Hence this 1972 reissue of the original Illusion of Living, unedited just as it was released 30 years earlier, save for a few footnotes by yours truly to help contextualise some of the writing for a contemporary reader. I hope this book inspires you as it did me. I hope the spirit of Joey Drew inspires you as it did for many generations. I hope that we can share the positivity of his philosophy and truly make, at long last, Joey Drew's dream come true. Introduction. There's one thing that every self-made man gets asked at some point in his life. How'd you do it? How'd you go from point A to point B? It might be so they can copy his actions or question his motives, but in the end, they all want to know one thing. I've been asked this so many times over my illustrious career, at different point Bs you could say. When I opened the studio, when I made my first million, when I expanded, the more real estate I bought, the more movies I made. How did you get here, Mr. Drew? How did you get here? I've been told so many times to write my story. I've been told my memoir would be a bestseller. I've been told so many things. My story is a good one, but I never really had the urge to put pen to paper, to go back into my past. My way is before me, the long road in front, fading into the distant horizon, not knowing what's to come, but certain I'm heading in the right direction. Looking back is awkward. Looking back, you can trip yourself up. I've never been a fan of it, which is why I've never really had the desire to tell my story, no matter how many book deals were offered, no matter how many dinners were thrown for me. I am a man who makes up his own mind. You can't buy me, no one buys Joey Drew. Then something happened. It was a conversation. This conversation I had with my driver Simmons. He'd picked me up from another lunch and I was, I admit, a little ornery. "Mr. Drew," he said, "you okay? I can tell something ain't right." "Simmons, you have no idea." "Are they asking again, sir?" I looked out the window. It was tinted, so everything outside had the appearance of a storm brewing. We were driving up Fifth Avenue and we passed a woman walking one of those large, strange dogs. You know the kind I mean, the ones that are really tall and thin, stretched out like the shadow of a dog, but the fur is long. It seemed like some kind of creature Bendy would have to comfort, something that would turn front-facing and just disappear, or slip through a crack in the floor and reappear somewhere else, oozing out from under a doorframe. So I was distracted and Simmons asked again, "Are they asking, sir, about the memoir?" "Of course they are," I replied, shaken out of my contemplation. "I don't know why you don't just tell them, sir." "Tell them what, Simmons? About my father and his shoe store? About the Signal Corps in World War I? About raising the capital back in the day to start the studio? About vaudeville and what else? That moment when Bendy first came to me? It's a good story, but there's no purpose to it. We know how it goes and we know the ending is still a long ways off." "No, sir, I mean about the reason for it all. The thing that you told me about life, your philosophy." Now Simmons was not exactly what anyone would call a deep thinker. He was a good fellow, a hard worker, and that's always been the most important thing to me. So I was surprised when he said the word philosophy, but I was even more surprised that he remembered it at all. What I had shared with him one night travelling from the airport back to my penthouse after returning from another successful round of meetings in Hollywood, it had stayed with him. My words. "Well, that's not a memoir, Simmons," I said. "But I was already thinking, whoever said my life had to be a memoir? Whoever said I needed to colour within the lines, as they say? I never played by any rulebook but my own." "A rulebook?" I said carefully. "Sir?" "A treatise." At this point, Simmons had no idea what I was talking about. I didn't expect him to, but maybe now, maybe when he finishes this book, just like when you, dear reader, finish this book, maybe you will understand. It's not about how I made it here. I have always been here. It's where is here? What is here? The definition of here. And I am about to share that with you. The Illusion of Living. Chapter 1. The What. What is the illusion of living? That's the big question, and that's what this book of mine will answer for you. In one way, there's an answer no longer than a couple of sentences to that question, but in another, it is an answer that will probably take several volumes in order for me to truly capture the importance of this concept. It is a life philosophy. But unlike some of our greatest past thinkers, I did not come to any conclusion through thought and careful meditation. Instead, it was born within me. My whole existence has been shaped around this concept. It just took some time for me to learn how to articulate it to others. In short, this book will explain the basic idea behind the illusion of living. Do not fret if you do not entirely understand at first. After all, this is a complex philosophy that only the greatest minds can truly wrap their heads around. But I have always believed that we can communicate to even the simplest person. Communication is everything, and even if you don't understand quite yet at the beginning of this book, by the end, and through our own due diligence, you will at least have a basic understanding. Your mind will open to such new possibilities in your own life that you will be most gratified for having made the effort here and now. We are all dreamers at heart, and I want to make sure that all of your dreams will indeed come true thanks in no small part to my unique insights. So in the briefest of explanations, the illusion of living is the art of mimicking real life on the big screen. An understandable concept, I would think. And yet it's not. The more you dig down to the how, the more you dig into reality, the more complicated it all gets. Fortunately, you have me as your guide. Picture me standing side by side with my greatest creation, Bendy. Picture us together in our exploring ensembles, each of us wearing a pith helmet, a khaki jacket and trousers. We are here to guide you through as we climb down into the muck of my philosophy and unearth the treasures buried inside. Chapter 2, Bendy. Before we begin though, I know why most of you picked up this book. I'm a very self-aware person. I know that most of you came to this book because of your love of our favourite little devil darling. I'm not offended that he is first in your heart. He is, after all, first in mine. He was my very first creation. One could even call him my firstborn. Bendy is my muse. He is also my messenger. He tells the stories of our lives in absurd, hilarious ways that put it all into perspective. He reminds us what we truly need in this world is joy and laughter. Money doesn't matter, power doesn't matter, not when we acknowledge the illusion of living. So, yes, have no fear, I will indeed be detailing how he came to be, how the studio came to be. All those wonderful stories will be in here, because all of it is part of a greater philosophy. Yes, he is a simple cartoon creation. Some might even dismiss him because of it. Some round lines here, a straight edge there, black ink. He isn't real, others might argue. Such a ridiculous argument. Isn't real? We can see him, we can touch him. Kids snuggle up with their stuffed Bendys at night. He has more fans than the Marx Brothers. What is real if he isn't? I tell people Bendy is the perfect example of my philosophy. He is its manifestation, or, as I like to say, dreams come true. If you work for me at my now world famous animation studio, Joey Drew Studios, you will have heard me say that more than once. I hope you don't mind me repeating it. It isn't some pat phrase to inspire people to remind my employees what they are working for. It's reality, it's real. Your dreams can come true. Because, as I've explained, illusion and reality are the same thing. I tell people that Bendy came to me in a dream. It's the truth. But when I tell people this, they imagine me asleep in my striped pyjamas and nightcap, sleeping cozy under my covers, and then, poof, Bendy fully realised, with that devilish smile, appearing to me like magic. I wish it had been so simple. No, what I had to do was want the dream in the first place. To know that I needed a creation so perfect, so accessible to so many people, that it would help me change the way the world saw itself. That was my dream. I was awake, and I knew what I wanted. I made it happen. Only then did Bendy appear to me. Only then did I start working with other artists to make him into a reality. But you see, I first made my dream, and then I made my dream come true. Now, I'm getting ahead of myself. I get excited and tell the story too fast. That's what editors are for, I suppose. It is curtain after all. So let's dim the house lights, start up the projector, and get this show rolling. And there you go guys, that was my reading of the first few chapters of the Bendy book, The Illusion of Living by Adrienne Kress. Now this book is available right now. If you did enjoy my reading, I would urge you to go and check it out and support the writer, support obviously the Meatly and Joey Drew Studios who put the book out, and yeah, just obviously support the artists involved because I'm not going to be reading the entire book on my channel. But I do hope you enjoyed this brief introduction to the book. I can't wait to dig in properly myself, and hopefully we'll get plenty more Bendy news very soon with the anniversary coming up, and of course Bendy and the Dark Revival still scheduled to release sometime this year. With that said guys, thank you for watching today's video. If you did enjoy the video, remember to leave a comment down below, hit that like button, and of course subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I will see you all on the next one.